I cannot believe it has been 6 months since I built this room. That's crazy. Back in October when we bought this house, I literally left the attorney's office where we closed on the house and went straight to Home Depot to buy supplies to build this room I'm sitting in right now. If you haven't seen it already, I made a video showing the actual building process of this room. You can watch that right here. Taking on this project has been such a fantastic experience in so many ways, and it's also been a constantly evolving animal on its own. So either way, it's been an extremely enlightening experience. I wanted to share some of the things that I've learned from building and working in a home studio for the last 6 months, as well as some of the pros and cons from the whole experience. But first, make sure to smash the ever-living daylights out of that like button and hit subscribe for more content like this. So in the video that I made showing how I built this room, there were 3 questions that I got more than any other comment, which was 1, what are the dimensions of the room? 2, how isolated is the room? And 3, what did you do with the windows? Well, 1, I can find you the answer because I've given it 5 million times at this point. 1, the room size is 20 feet by 13 feet. Now I took each wall and I framed in a new wall that is 12 inches in from the original size. So that's the difference in the room now, how it is built out. 2, how isolated is the room? Well, I can answer that question, which is it's not that isolated. The design of this room was not to create a soundproof, isolated room. The design of this room was essentially so that I can mix a record in here and know exactly what it is that I'm hearing, and for it to also sound phenomenal when you're sitting right in the sweet spot. And that's exactly what I got. Now, surprisingly, even though it seems like the room is super dead, it actually works really, really well for overdubbing and even for tracking drums. Now, obviously, when you're tracking drums, there is a very specific sound to the room, and that's what it is. You know, it is a relatively small room, so it sounds very much like that. But specifically, it works very well for the operation that I'm running right now in this moment. So that's what's most important. Now, 3, the windows, that was a pretty interesting part of the equation that I probably overlooked on the design side of things. Essentially, what I wound up doing was just covering the windows with black fabric. I literally stapled the fabric to the existing wall, which is just some cheap wood paneling. And then I built in these new walls around it and filled it all the way with 12 inches of Rockwell Safe and Sound insulation. Now, I did find a situational solution that works for me, and I made some changes. If you're interested in seeing how that played out, check out this video right here. I made a whole video about it. One of the things that wound up being super important that I'm constantly still improving is the lighting. If you're producing, engineering, or creating in this space for a long period of time, no matter what you're doing, lighting is very important. And it's definitely something you have to give some consideration to. That's something that I was fairly prepared for, but I still to this day am always trying to improve. For me, I personally like indirect lighting and warm tones. I like for it to feel comfortable, like I'm almost in a family room or something, where I don't feel like I'm at the office and I'm at work. Now, if you're shooting videos, then you're obviously aware of how important lighting is. And especially nowadays, having cool, different lighting in the background is pretty important. Obviously, that's kind of low on my priority list. This is essentially as exciting as it gets for my background lighting. For now, you know, eventually I'll care more. To be fair, I will say when I got this house, this room had 0 lights in it. And at this point, there's 7 lights in the ceiling, several lamps. I have 2 mounted indirect lightings and 2, what are these called? Light boxes for videos. It could be worse. All right, now let's talk about some of the pros and cons of working in a home studio. First, this is an obvious one, but your home. Now, I would say there's probably a pro and a con to this. The pro is, well, you're already home, so you don't have to commute. If you own the property, then you own it, so you have full control of everything. Now, this could be a con. Let's say you have a family and the studio is not completely separate, meaning that maybe your studio shares everything. I mean, if you have clients come over, they're sharing the same bathroom as your family, the kitchen, any sort of lounge. At the very least, it could be distracting. There could be noise. Who knows? That could be a con, but it also could be a pro. More family time, get to have more family involved studio experiences. The next thing I would say is if you own the property or you're renting, the studio is yours in one way or another. So obviously the pro of this is you get to decide who's coming through the studio. You get to decide what you're working on, how your time is spent. All of the details about the studio is up to you, and that's pretty sweet. Depending on you and your personality and workflow and business model, could be a con, which is, I mean, if this is now your studio, you are wearing all of the hats, meaning you're now the studio tech, the studio janitor, the intern, the assistant, the engineer, the producer, and the business owner, which means it's coming out of your pocket. In other words, you are responsible for everything. That means that your success is dependent upon your ability to manage it well. Now, again, this depends on you and your workflow and business model. So maybe you're used to the commercial studio model. If that's the case, it's at the very least a heavier workload for you. Can be a con, can be a pro. It's really in the eyes of the beholder. Now, back to the pro side of this, you get to arrange the studio. You get to decide the function and workflow and how the studio looks and how it operates and where things go and how the cabling is wired, where the things are stored. You get to figure out what the best, most efficient way for you to work is. And that is both a good thing and sometimes a challenging thing. So I think it's good at the very least to learn about these things and go through the experience so that you can understand it better and analyze what is it that makes the most efficient workflow for you. Another pro is it's a great place for meetings or consultations with potential clients or people that you're doing work with, to have a proper meeting or interview with somebody, which is definitely a pro. Now, depending on your specific location, the lot size and the neighbor situation can be tricky. So when I show you how I do things, this is highly specific to my situation. We have a bigger size lot, so my neighbors aren't that close. I don't really have to worry about being too noisy. I also have a child, so I'm not being that noisy at night anyways. I'm a bit of an old guy, so I like to go to sleep early. All of these things are very situational, and I'm sure you have a very different situation than me, or maybe you have a very similar situation to me. What's great is it's your home studio. You get to use your own judgment to figure out what's gonna work best for you. Last pro is definitely one of the best. It's a great place for movie night. No doubt about that. So I'd say no matter what the situation is, there's always going to be pros and cons. And there's definitely value in assessing what those pros and cons are so you can maximize the efficiency of your specific situation. What situation are you in? I mean, I can probably guess you're probably at home right now, just like I am. What are some of the pros and cons of your situation and how did you solve them? Let me know down in the comments. If you haven't noticed, I love responding to comments, so leave a comment below. Lastly, I wanted to say thank you guys so much for watching these videos. I love making them, and I'm going to continue doing it for the foreseeable future. Thank you guys very, very much. I really do appreciate it. Obviously, smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, notification bell to be notified the next time I upload a video. Head on over to ANDREWMASTERSmusic.com if you would like me to mix your project or have me drum on your song. It's super easy. Thank you guys again for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.